Good evening, and welcome to a Mother's Day edition of the College Football Mafia presents Mowing After Dark. I am, of course, Moen, joined by my co-host, Rock and Rant, aka Rock. How are you doing this evening, Rock?
I'm good. It was a good weekend. Hope everyone had a good weekend with their moms, their wives, their daughters, everyone who was celebrating one form or fashion of Mother's Day. Got to go see a movie. It was gorgeous out here this weekend. How about you? Are the weather gods being kind in Ohio finally, or did you have another wild
Finally,
weekend?
it's still kind of wet, but it has started to dry out quite a bit. I'm happy with that. Out in the woods, it's still a little swampy, but it did dry out quite a bit in the open areas. So that was very good to see.
Excellent.
And I want to go ahead and we're going to jump right into the hellos and how are yous and how you doings. Devil Frog, perhaps the Big and SEC shouldn't poach fellow conferences if they aren't willing to accept responsibility for their role in the scorched earth status quo. Okay, here's my response to that, Devil Frog. It is not poaching if you have enough acreage and the deer walks onto your land.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a little bit of the deer's not going to walk onto your land if it knows it's going to get shot. But, you know, the analogy you're making is accurate.
It's what I constantly refer to as the free pizza doctrine. If
Right.
if you're at home and it's 7 o'clock and you're hungry and you're thinking, what am I going to fix for dinner? And you get a knock on the door and it's Domino's and it's paid for and it has your name and your address, you're going to tell me you're not eating the free pizza? I'm eating the free pizza.
It'll actually seem like it tasted good.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll taste better because it was free.
Yeah, you won't be thinking it was just like bread with red stuff on it. You'll think that was a free pizza.
Right. Right. So I understand you want to blame the Big and the SEC. You need to blame USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Oklahoma, Texas, UNC, Miami, Florida State, Clemson. They're the ones leaving their conferences, and they're leaving their conferences for greener pastures.
You can make a valid argument though on some of these, right? That Jim Phillips and his predecessor left the conferences, the teams behind too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It poor leadership, poor management, all around. Bob Bowlesby, same thing with the Big 12. Kliavkoff, and the guy before him too at the Pac-12. Nathan Campbell says hi. Good to see you, Nathan.
Hey,
Campbell.
Nathan.
The Big Lubbock is third. Ryan Willie says hi, CFM.
What's up, Ryan?
And we're going to get to his big super chat here in a second. At Double Frog, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington called the Big Ten. Texas and Oklahoma called the SEC. It's the school's actions that destroyed the Pac-12, not another conference. That's true. And Colorado actually called the Big 12. So, and then coming off the top rope, Ryan Willie with our $100 super chat, our second
very kind of you, Ryan.
Yeah, second $100 super chat. We had another on Friday, and I will go into his story about that, but I want to honor Ryan first. Ryan, I'm wearing my old school stuff, so I've got the Wisconsin hat on, but I am wearing it backwards. Just know I'm wearing it in honor of this $100 super chat. It is much appreciated, sir. You are the man. Just because the Big 12 and ACC are having a temper tantrum doesn't mean we should totally destroy CFB. Eliminating conferences and forcing schools to share their cash is communism, socialism. The schools left out would have trouble funding other sports research. Ryan, I couldn't agree with you more, and because of that, I get to play this sound effect.
Well, that changes pretty much fucking everything. Count me in.
And I will go ahead and give you some badger noises as well, sir. Put that badger up there. Thank you so much for that super chat, Ryan. We really do appreciate it. That's going to go a long way in helping us make some more improvements around here. By the way, just FYI, so everybody knows, now every live stream from the College Football Mafia, from Mowing After Dark to the Big Freaking Friday show, Big 12 Mafia shows, Sit Down. Those are now all available in podcast form through the YouTube Music app. I know we get a lot of people who watch us on demand, and they were a little, if you don't have YouTube Premium, you got to leave your phone open. It burns up battery. You can now download the YouTube Music app and find all of our live streams in a podcast format that should alleviate some of the issues people have been having.
The only thing I would add on to Ryan's comment is that the forcing schools to share their money is actually already happening in each conference, right? By definition, if anything, the one conference that is the quote unquote least communist socialistic right now, or at least going forward, is the ACC, which has put in all of the performance-based scenarios that are, they're still pooling money, but there are schools that are getting more of what their brand value is to the deal. But the Big Ten Conference, like Ohio State on the open market, dollar for dollar, would get a hell of a lot more money than, Northwestern or Purdue would. So there is, sharing of revenues within a conference already.
Right, and there's an Oak Valley Group white paper out there right now that has a thing on team valuations. I don't necessarily agree with all of it. By the way, if you want to find that, just go to our Discord. I put it in the main channel on Discord. It's a PDF. You'll have to download it, but it's an interesting read. Thank you again for the super chat, Ryan. I can't thank you enough, sir. Now, Conundrum says Ryan Willie posted donated a C note. Therefore, Moen must sing on Wisconsin. I don't know if anybody caught it on Friday night. A gentleman named Amazing Blue paid me $100, and I agreed to it, and I sang. I said the GB word, and I sang some of Hail to the Victors. I don't know all of Hail to the Victors. But I'm gonna try my hand at On Wisconsin, so bear with me. On Wisconsin, plunge right through that line, run the ball clear down the field, a touchdown sure this time. On Wisconsin, fight on for her fame. Fight, fellows, fight, we'll win this game. On Wisconsin, stand up Badgers sing. Forward is our driving spirit, loyal voices ring. On Wisconsin, raise her glowing flame. Stand, fellows, let us now salute her name. On Wisconsin, grand all Badger State. We, the loyal sons and daughters, hail for good and great. On Wisconsin, champions of the right. Forward our motto, God will give thee right.
Well, Moen,
I'll go ahead and play the applause. I applaud myself.
I'm proud of you because you're proving that we have said before, and that's why I just switched my background. We can be bought. So Moen can be bought to say "Go Blue," or to recite the On Wisconsin. We can sell squares on the change back wall. We'll do whatever it is to keep the lights on, to quote somebody, and to be able to put more into the shows.
Absolutely, and that's going to lead me into my story today. My mother passed away in 2016, so I had to go today to put some flowers on it. And of course, my mom has an Ohio State grave. It's a granite bench. It's got a big block O on it. And I had to deeply apologize to my mother for doing what I did on Friday. But I told her, hey, times are tight. We need a little money to improve some things around here, get some new equipment. Space, and she both drop. All right.
You were freezing there. I don't know if anyone else caught that, so I don't know if it was a me or you thing. So if somebody in the chat can let us know if either one of us was freezing, I'd appreciate it.
I think we did. Yeah, that was strange. I don't know what was going on there, but anyway, I apologize to my mom for saying the things I did on Friday. I hope she accepted my apology. She, because that's the way my mom handled things.
Yeah, my mother passed away 20 plus over 20 years ago, unfortunately. But I posted something today, which is a reflection of her, of like things you learn from your mom about college football. And for me is my mom yelled at refs way worse than my father ever would be, including whether it was like junior league sports or in college football. So shout out to all the moms who hold up the traditions and keep you going and get you into sports as well as your dads. Yes, I do see that Moen is continuing to freeze a bit, so I'm going to assume he's frozen. Chat, keep letting us know when he's back, because I can't really 100% sure. So let's go through some more of our greetings while we're waiting for Moen to come back on.
Moen's back. I don't know what's causing my internet issues right now. It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't be any interference. I've got my extender plugged in. So we'll just try and push through, and hopefully that goes away. But yes, speaking of mothers and what they teach you about college football, my mom always taught me to hell with Hayden Fry. She did not like Hayden Fry. And she often told the story how she once was watching an Ohio State game, and some guy was running the ball all over the Buckeyes, and she said, break that kid's leg. And the next play, the kid's leg broke. And she felt awful about it and terrible. But then later on, when I was a kid growing up, Tim Biakabatuka for the University of Michigan, put up 300 yards on Ohio State, and she gleefully said it again to break that guy's leg. So
you gotta love it.
Devil Frog says the 442211 BS is a Big Ten and SEC temper tantrum intended to destroy CFB.
Fortunately, it doesn't look like we're going that way. At least it's a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a 14 team playoff. We're moving to 16. I would like to see it tweaked. I'd like to see 2 go to the G5, but there you go.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the 4-4 thing, period. I think you should just get the 16 best schools in, and most of the time, Big Ten and SEC would actually get that or more. Just the statistics say that, but just do it on the field. But at least 16 gives you more room to not accidentally have an 18th ranked Big Ten team in ahead of an 11th ranked at-large team, because 2 other at-large teams happen to be higher. And some weird scenarios, there a lot more of them are removed. But I understand and agree with Devil Frog in principle, and I would say that tomorrow if Miami was in the Big Ten, winning on the field, most of those times those conferences will get those many bids anyway.
Devil Frog says it's amusing when corporate socialists and Mensheviks pretend to oppose socialism. Here is the difference, Devil Frog. There's a difference between choosing socialism and having it thrust upon you. The Big Ten chooses socialism. We do equal revenue sharing. Outside, though, there's some individual things the school's going to keep all of, but for television media money, you're right, it's socialism. We pool our resources. That's a far cry from having someone come in and say, okay, now we're going to force you to pool all your resources with teams that you have no tradition with, no shared history. As much as you don't like USC, UCLA, and Oregon and Washington being in the Big Ten, we do have shared history with those schools.
Yeah, plus, but I do like the fact that half the chat has to go Google something right now, so I appreciate that from Devil Frog.
Weird how the free market capitalists don't support a bunch of ones. 4-6 at-large model. Probably a coincidence, though. Well, the reality, though, is this is more codified in order to secure the actual funding that they know they're going to have for the end of the season. The Big Ten's going to get 4 in anyway. The SEC is going to get 4 in anyway. Even if they weren't locked in, that college football playoff committee is going to put 4 from the Big Ten and 4 from the SEC in. Especially when the SEC and the Big Ten take Miami, Florida State, Clemson, UNC. They're going to have all the brands. I don't say that with glee or joy or anything like that. I'm just saying that with facts. I mean, is Miami going to stay in the ACC, Rock?
I mean, if we do, I'm going to cry. But other than that, I would not expect it to be there. What that timeline is, who knows? But maybe something changes, right? Like so many different permutations of things could happen, and fundamentally, but the math is math. Yes, it's not just about TV media rights, but the fact of the matter is that the math on that portion of that doesn't really significantly allow any school like a Clemson or a Florida State to narrow what is at least a $30 to $40 million gap in the coming years with the Big Ten. And ultimately, no matter how many rich billionaire donors you do or do not have, that is hard to sustain over time when it comes to if you want to compete for that same level of title. And even on a recruiting level, it can come back and impact you. You could still have the highest NIL deal, but if somebody thinks that they're going to have a better chance of the exposure and the teaching and the coaching, right or wrong, that the Power 2 presents, then it's still going to be an issue, even if you had the money in the bank.
Right. And Devil Frog, I see you've got a lot more messages in here, but I'm going to have to move. We've done quite a few for you. I want to make sure we get a good cross-section of everybody who's here in the chat. Scavin, yes, says hello, Moen. Good to see you, Scavin. Go Big Red. MBM says, especially when the auto bids are guaranteed money. Yeah, but I have to think Oklahoma State. I have to think Oklahoma State's going to be a perennial favorite in the Big 12.
They should be a perennial favorite in the Big 12, right? Last year did not come to pass that way. We'll see what happens with Gundy. I know that when we're doing Big 12 predictions way too early on, the thing I do with Flo, the three of us were all over the place and where we thought Oklahoma State was going to finish this year, anywhere from like 3rd to 11th. So we will see what ultimately happens for Oklahoma State. But in theory, they should be one of the favorites every year in the Big 12. They were often one of the favorites when Texas and Oklahoma were there. So if anything, it should at least stay the same, if not go higher.
Antoine Johnson says, good evening, y'all. I have to listen to the replay. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Thank you. That's a very warm feeling to put forth, Antoine, and we hope you enjoyed on the replay. Again, if you didn't catch it earlier, check us out on YouTube Music. You will find Moen After Dark as a podcast. Friends call me Sean. With Notre Dame likely staying independent and UNC heavily leaning SEC, why would the Big just sit back and let the SEC grab Florida State? At that point, could the Big do any better than Miami and Florida State? Why not be more aggressive? Here's the thing. UNC is going to have to make a choice. I think once UNC makes a choice, then the Big's going to be aggressive. But until UNC is target number one, Notre Dame's off the table. I think we can firmly say Notre Dame's off the table. They signed that agreement with Clemson. They'll stay independent a little longer. They've scheduled their way to remain independent. So the Big Ten and the SEC are both narrowed in on UNC. And if Bubba Cunningham does end up leaving UNC, I think that's a pretty good indication that the UNC is going to the SEC, especially if Bubba Cunningham ends up coming to Michigan State.
Do you think that you think that Bubba Cunningham leaving is a leading indicator that that they're going one way or the other in that, as opposed to he's just thrown out a lot of different things have been quoted for, private equity or not private equity, super league support, etc.
I think he is a moderating voice in that room. And I think you take him out of that room and the boosters who are pro SEC are going to make sure they get an AD that's pro SEC. But we'll see. We'll see. He hasn't left yet. Old Dad says, good evening. What do you think about the, let's put this out here. Friends call me Sean. Florida State, Miami. Are you okay? You okay with that? Do you like that? Is that your preferred? I know they're a rival. I know they're a rival. You're muted. You're muted, Rock.
Sorry about that. I would never change. I don't ever get the concept of big rivals not wanting to play each other. I think it's one of the most asinine comments I've ever heard from any school on any team on any conference when they do that. The idea that like Oklahoma fans don't want to play Oklahoma State makes no sense to me. I don't care if it's in conference or out of conference. I would much rather have Florida State go with Miami where they're ever going to go. I'm not as concerned if they go to the SEC because I just guess and I don't know that if Miami wasn't invited to the Big Ten and if Florida State for some reason went to the SEC, not over the Big Ten, whether they had a choice or not a choice, that they would simply flip-flop and make Florida now their annual automatic in-conference game, and the spot that Florida has legally in this state, or was threatened legally, I believe, would just flip with Miami, because I don't actually think that Florida State as an administration and athletic directorship or Miami's would take that easy road out of like destroying something that basically helped build both of them up for the last 40 years, whether they like each other or not. And the rivalry is X, but both schools actually have a pretty good relationship administratively, is everything I've ever heard and been told from people who would know.
So that would be your let's say Miami gets to take one. That's your preference, Florida State.
I would taking Notre Dame out of the mix, because I wouldn't mind Notre Dame too if we got to play them more often, but which we're already going to. Florida State's who I would want to go. Like that, I just put those two, add those twos into the conference for the health of the conference. On the media side, you add all of those games versus the rivals of the existing big brands in the conference. It just helps the conference overall. I just want to be assured of playing Florida State, even if we go to the Tiddlywinks conference.
Okay. Old Dad says, are we having fun yet? I guess that is from the perspective of who you are and where you are.
And what day it is.
And what day it is. That's right. Bob Swanger says, good evening, everyone. Good to see you, Nittany Lion. Rory Rory, I'm going to try. McManama.
McManama.
McManama. There you go. Yeah. Blame Texas and South Carolina, Southern Cal. Well, I'm sure Rock's wife, she blames Southern Cal all the time.
They don't have a leg to stand on that one.
Steele Austin says, good evening. Good to see you, Steele.
Hello, Steele.
Nick Kelso's in the house. He says, hi. Good to see you, Nick. Mick Stevens says, go Frogs. Mr. Monkey says, is in. Caleb Ramirez says, hi, all. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. That's right. We do have something special for the end of the show. I will save that for the end of the show for all the mothers out there. Jackson Johnson's says, what's up, CFB Mafia Nation? Good to see you, Jackson. Jan Hulk checking in all the way from Europe with the hey all. Good to see you, Jan. We appreciate you. Coy says, hi, all, as well. We got
what's
a
up,
super
Coy?
chat here. We got Rob Ellen is a new member. Congratulations, Rob. I don't know if that's re-up or you just became a member again, but thank you for that. Welcome to the family. That makes you a winner in my book.
Winner.
Then we have MBM says $20 super chat. Let me get his cowboy dance out here because I know I have the cowboy here. There we go. Stray Sankey's lying in ponds distributing trophies is no basis for a system of government. I get the reference. I appreciate the reference, but I don't know that I have any Monty Python on here. I don't think I have Monty Python on here. I got some Mr. Show. We'll do some Mr. Show.
Yep. Probably gonna die. I knew, man. I knew I'd never make it to 30 because I'm a wild man. Because I party.
There you go. Thank you for the $20 super chat. I'll also go ahead and we'll play your little Cartman Wild Wild West song here.
I'm a badass cowboy living in the cowboy days. Wiki, wiki, scratch, yo, yo, bang, bang. Me and Artemis, large frog, go, says, Selma Hayek from the big metal spiders. Wiki, 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 fresh cowboy from the west side.
Thank you for the super chat, MVM. It is appreciated, sir. You're helping us keep the lights on here and do incredible things. I will get some Monty Python on here at some. You know what? I take that back. I do have Monty Python on here somewhere. Yes, I do.
And now for something completely different.
There you go. I shocked myself.
You need to get the, because I think we can use it for multiple instances and it's short. You just need to get the "get me a bucket" one on.
Yes, from the
We
meaning
can
of
use
life.
it for milkers. We can use it when somebody's making you sick.
I
you know.
can't eat another bite.
Boy, just a thin wafer.
It's wafer thin, sir. It is the thinnest wafer mint we have. People who haven't seen Monty Python think we're deranged.
But that's
Sean
the best.
Keith-
To me, that's the best Monty Python to go if you're not like complete. If you're ADD, because it's in segments, right? It's like the meaning of life.
Absolutely, I agree. I get so much kickback on that from people. I think Meaning of Life is the best movie because I think Monty Python works best in a sketch format. Conundrum says he's saving the deer's lives.
There you go.
The deer that get left
humanitarian.
behind are the ones dying. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you what, I've hit probably 3 or 4 deers in my life. So I don't actually deer hunt, but I do hit them from time to time. So, and I've been told it makes the meat extremely tender. BYU football says, I don't know. I wonder if the pizza was poisoned myself. Hey, you got to take risks in life, man.
It's a good risk.
You know what? You're right, Shonsky. It depends on what's on the pizza. If it's got pineapple on it, I'm not eating that shit.
Yeah. And if your real day job is that you're a covert CIA agent, I would not eat the pizza.
And you're right. I would be worried because my driveway's like a quarter of a mile long and there's nobody close that makes pizza to me. So I would be extremely worried. You're right. The real blame, this is from Shooter, Texas. The real blame lies with ESPN and others who have done things out of pure greed. The horns are another great example of pure greed and a total lack of integrity. I enjoy your spelling of horns there. That was very clever.
My only pushback on that would be to say, not that it's wrong because it is correct, but it is a massive cycle now, but it's not like the Big East didn't implode multiple times and teams were poached and others were left hanging, right? Some teams came from the Big East to the ACC, others got left high and dry. Some had to go to the Big 12, like West Virginia. Others went to interim stops, like Louisville, before coming over the ACC and might still get screwed again. And that was it was always about money, but it was less about money. The stakes weren't as big. The differences between the conferences at that point were still not as great as they clearly are now with the SEC and Big Ten.
Mr. Monkey says, what if you told the deer's commissioner that you wouldn't poach his deer? Well, if your deer's commissioner is foolish enough to believe that, that's on your deer's commissioner. I don't know what to tell you.
If you have hired, I don't know, Jim Phillips to be the deer's commissioner, go for it. I think it will totally work.
Tom Dubay says it's pretty wild how university presidents can hire so many incompetent athletic commissioners over the course of 10 to 15 years. I say it all the time. Some of the smartest people I know are some of the dumbest people I know.
My mom used to say that. Or you're so smart, you're stupid.
Yeah. My aunt in New Jersey can't pump gas. Doesn't know how. When she drives to come see us in Ohio, she literally has to pay somebody at the gas station to pump her gas. She doesn't know how the gas pump works. Reason being, in New Jersey, you're not allowed to pump your own gas.
But she's still a nuclear physicist as her day job.
She's got a very high IQ, a very high IQ job. Can't figure out a gas pump. Can't figure out how to pump gas. She literally just peels off a 20 and finds somebody to pump the gas for her and gives them a 20. So, how will getting rid of teams, schools, conferences from P4 football add fans exactly? Who said getting rid of anybody? I think there's room for everybody. There's access for everybody. You can schedule everybody. I just don't believe you need to tear it all down and make one conference or make this regional conference with teams that have no history. I mean, some of the regional conferences I've seen for Ohio State have Pitt and West Virginia and Kentucky. We have no real history with those schools.
Everybody, you should just date whoever your neighbor is. That's the way the world works.
Yeah, I mean, I for the SEC it works. They're a regional conference. They
Right.
pulled it off. They did a good job at it. The Big Ten can't do that. There's just not enough value. The Pac couldn't survive because there wasn't enough value in a West Coast conference anymore. Now,
Yeah.
who's to blame for that? You're right. The commissioners are. The Pac-12 network was a terribly executed idea. They had so much faith in themselves. They didn't bring a partner on, which means they took all the risk on. And it didn't work for them. And at the end of the day, teams like USC were like, we're done with it. We're out. We want to leave.
Look, I think Chris's point, though, is clear. I don't think the powers that be in those conferences that are in more driving spots, other than lip service, are really worried about the additive quality. They're worried about adding more audience to the games they have. They don't care whether, and part of that for them is being able to add more time slots and more games to take away from somebody. I don't think they really care. Ultimately, the networks don't care as long as they have all the content they need or what they're willing to pay for it. You know, and you talked about the Pac-12. The ACC, they actually probably executed the ACC network well. The problem was that they sold their souls so deeply that it didn't matter in order to achieve that, right? Whereas the SEC and Big Ten and in different business structures didn't sell their soul to achieve a good outcome at the same time.
Free pizza is cool until you hoard all the slices, lock the doors, and then complain about the mess. We're not hoarding all the slices. We're not locking any doors. You have playoff access. You can negotiate your own media deal. The Big 12, when the Big 12 media deal comes up, they're going to get a very, very good media deal because they're going to be able to go to Warner Bros. I firmly believe this. You're going to have more streamers coming forward wanting content. You're going to have Warner Brothers Discovery. They've lost the NBA. If I'm the Big 12, I'm already on the phone with them. I'm taking lunches. I'm saying, hey, 4 years from now, let's do a Big 12 network. You've got that True TV, Turner Sports that's just hanging out there doing nothing. Let's do it. Nobody's getting denied access, Devil Frog. It's just, yes, the Big 10 has a better media deal than the Big 12. The SEC has a better media deal than the Big 12. They negotiated better media deals.
The Yankees have a better local rights deal than the Kansas City Royals. Like, that's the reality of the world.
Absolutely. My neighbor has a bigger house than I do. Doesn't mean I can just go chop a bedroom off of his house and take it.
But you might hit their deer.
But if one of their deer comes from their property to my property, it's my right to shoot that deer. On Wisconsin, where's my barf bucket? I'll tell you what, Tony, you pay $100 in Super Chat, I will sing Muskrat Love or whatever the Gophers fight song is. Those who make to the P2 in the next 5 to 15 years, will you hold the door open for the ones behind you? I think a lot you guys won't. Again, I think we're getting to the point where we're codifying this playoff, going to be a 16-team playoff with 2 guaranteed slots for the Big 12, 2 guaranteed slots for the ACC, as well as at-large bids. If you guys want to get mad at anybody, get mad at the fact that Notre Dame's probably going to take up one of those at-large bids without being a member of a conference.
Notre Dame is Moen's secret love. Can't you all tell?
GB is messing with Moen. It's true. It's true. I kept drinking when I got off stream on Friday night. We got hammered. We finished off a bottle, and I got part of the way through another bottle. So,
hey, I'm impressed. You must have really stocked up on that Canada trip you did, because I was kind of waiting for you to be in, like, you know, some bottom of the shelf 7-Eleven liquor wine kind of thing. Boone's Farm. Like, I was going to be like, it's Boone's Farm wine after dark with Moen.
it's not Mogan David 2020 yet, but not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with Mogan David 2020. But no, I'm working through Christmas gifts, birthday gifts. Pretty much everybody in my life knows just get him whiskey. It's a gift that he'll put to use. So troll grinding cheek clapper. That's how my mom is. Dad had to hold her back from trying to fight some UCLA female fans while she was an employee at USC after a game.
I feel you, troll grinding. Like, that's what I loved about my mom. You know, very mild manner, would do anything for anyone, but she taught me how to troll with the best of them before trolling was a thing.
Mm-hmm. We weren't allowed to say the F words as kids unless it was directly followed by the word Michigan.
Yes, for us it was Notre Dame, which was ironic because my mom went to Catholic church all the time.
Seize the means of college football production. Am I right? I tried to find a good Marxism quote, so there's really not any great ones.
But there is a good Monty Python quote. It's just a flesh wound.
Had enough, have you? Vista Tiger. Some of the SEC teams should not be forced to support their own, like Vanderbilt and South Carolina football. Time for conferences to start kicking teams out, not pulling their weight. That would be up to the individual conferences and their members to decide, I believe.
There's literally no way that they're kicking out Vanderbilt. You're not kicking out the highest ranked academic institution or second highest ranked academic institution in your conference. Now, college presidents are not doing that. You know, that's the issue we have of like, and we're part
Harvard
of that,
of the
right?
South.
Yeah, we're part of that and talking about TV ratings and media deals all the time, but it's on a simple level on some levels, right? Because who you hang out with isn't completely related to what their credit limit is on their credit card, right? And what else they can bring. Like, they can bring access to things and money that is outside of that window. So I wouldn't expect that to happen anytime soon.
Amazon announces plans to share all profits with Walmart, Target, and all local merchants just to make it fair.
I don't know. They seem to be afraid to do anything without permission.
Troll grinding cheek clapper again. Like I said last time, USC is totally fine with equal revenue sharing when there's enough cash to do it. Pac-12 didn't have the cash for it. Big Ten did, but there's a reason Pac-12 didn't have the cash for it. They created a Pac-12 network, and they completely financed it themselves with no partner. They took on all the risk.
Pac-12 was not down with OPP. I mean, and sometimes OPM.
USC is pulling their weight. They made to the SEC title more recently than the Volunteers. The real only drags on the SEC is Mississippi State, University of Kentucky. Those teams have been up and down for 20 years and mostly good. Yeah, Kentucky, you got to cut them some slack, though, because of the basketball.
Right.
Mr. Monkey says, I think it should be a 5-5, 2-2 Alabama Notre Dame. I'm telling you, Notre Dame is going to get one of those at-large spots every year.
And Alabama will win by 20, so we all kind of know.
Moen, you keep talking about having all the big brands. Are you actually saying that brand is greater than success on the field? That's a really horrible way to look at CFB. Meritocracy should be the rule. I agree that you need meritocracy, but I also agree that you need to maximize the profitability for everybody. You get the best deal for the CFB, that gets shared evenly among all conferences. So yes.
No, it doesn't.
Well, to an extent, the more money there is, the more money they make too. The more the Big Ten makes, the more the Big 12 makes. You can get a higher
disproportionate, not equal share.
Yes, but you get more money. The more money the Big Ten makes, the more money the Big 12 makes.
It raises the floor for everyone, even if they are building in the disparity between the P2 and everybody else and the everybody else's.
Right. You get more. So if you're guaranteeing the Big Ten and the SEC 4 spots each, and the media partners know that there's a guarantee they're going to get probably 4 of the better brands, if not the best brands, because the best brands tend to be the most competitive too. That's why they're the best brands. That's going to raise the amount of money you get for the college football playoffs, media payouts, which is going to help the Big 12 and the ACC and the G7 as well. How deep are Oklahoma State's pockets? I know they have some oil field money. I'm not sure. T-Boone Pickens, I don't know how much he left them. He did pay for that entire stadium. I know that. That's why it's T-Boone Pickens Field. Rob Ellen
someone
says,
has
good
to know
evening.
in our chat. Someone has an idea about that.
MBM could probably answer that. I don't know enough about Oklahoma State. I just know consistent programs tend to be winning programs, and Mike Gundy's been there a long time, and they've had some very winning programs there. There was one year, if they could have just had offense, Jim Knowles had that defense tuned so much that they could have made it into the playoffs. Damn, I feel bad for Coach Smith having to work for Bubba. How about Coach Belichick having to work for Jordan?
Did she win, Miss Maine?
I know Coach was there for her. That's all I saw on it.
Yeah, I mean, I said that facetiously. I am sure there was almost no chance. Who hates FSU more, UF or Miami? I hate Florida more than I hate Florida State, so I at least have respect for Florida State, even if they're a vicious rival and not in the day, because they didn't like cancel a series and duck out to play once every like 7 years. There's a reason why the Florida State logo is on my back wall and the Gators upside down. I can't speak for everybody, though.
If Miami goes to the Big Ten, and with a scheduling agreement, they will make Florida State, Miami a part of it for at least a decade. I think if Miami goes to the Big Ten and Florida State goes to the SEC and we get that scheduling agreement going, I don't know how long the scheduling agreement will be, but I see them putting together permanent rivalries with that. I don't see them rotating Miami out to play everybody else. I do see it being Miami against Florida State for X number of years.
Or with the automatic bids the way they are, both schools can make it the secondary game. Like Clemson and Notre Dame are playing for the next 12 years, right?
True.
Regardless of anything. And they just, because you don't worry about losing 1 or 2 games anymore. I mean, I think the general thought to me, and I could be wrong because I'm just a guy out here who pays attention to this stuff but's not in the room, is you don't bring all these quote unquote big brands together and then stop playing one of the, even when both of those big brands have down years or down periods, one of the top 20 rated games in a given year almost every year, often a top 10, and depending upon if they're both good, a top 5. Like that defeats the whole purpose of trying to enhance the schedules for the networks.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I think with the Big Ten SEC scheduling agreement, I think you're going to they want to get as much money from the media partners as they can for that. That benefits both the SEC and the Big Ten. They're going to want to make sure that they guarantee some exciting matchups in Florida State, Miami. Guaranteed matchup every year. That's excitement. And there's many others that we can think of too. No Monty Python sound is a glaring weakness. I told you I did have one on here.
And now for something completely different.
Which becomes ironic the second time you have to play it in the show.
That's right. Not all unis are equal. Some kids want a big city like Austin. Some are smart, so Stanford. Maybe it's a big campus like Ohio State. Some like warm weather, so USC. Some like their home state region, so Penn State. I don't disagree. Everybody's got their own different criteria for where they go.
Mine was find 1,000 miles from home and start from there.
Still waiting on that Tiger or Sounder mowing. Okay. You got to remind me. I try and add new sounds all the time. I added like 7 new sounds last Friday. But I will try and make a memorandum of that in my mind, as well as the tiger growling or kind of tiger head effect. Maybe I'll put Tiger King on here. How about that? There's nothing capitalist about locking the gates and calling it free or fair. That's protectionism in a polo.
I would stay away from Devil Frog today, everybody, if you're in a P2 conference, because he's on a roll.
But it was interesting. Wild, you on Friday night, I don't know how much of Friday's show you caught, but point blank, I asked him, I said, if Utah was in the Big Ten, would you feel differently about it? And he said, oh, absolutely. It's, if you're in one of the Power Two, it's completely different on how you take things.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty adamant that the things I say, I won't change my mind if we're in one of those conferences as much as I want to be there. I don't think anybody should have automatic bids outside of the conference champs. I think play it out, and most of the time you'll get what you are requiring or more by default. You have more of the money, you have more of the brands. I would rather just I don't want to see a year or two where weird things happen and excellent schools who have earned it on the field are out of the playoff because of a weird year in the Big Ten or the SEC for that matter. And most of the time that won't happen. So I don't know why they need to codify these things to move on to play-in games, because 16 schools in a playoff is going to give you that or more 90% of the time. And in the 10% of the time where it doesn't work out in your favor, you will have already gained it in the other years anyway. Right? Because theoretically in a 16-team playoff, the way it is right now, the SEC and Big Ten could, in theory, have up to 11 schools in, right? Like theoretically, there's 11 spots they could take with the right dominoes falling in the right way. Whereas the ACC, by itself, the most it could ever get would be 5. Big 12, most it could ever get it would be 5. The combined entity could be 7. So it's already laying that way, and that would probably be what happens most of the time anyway. So just play it on the damn field. I agree with that statement generally, and I don't think I would change my mind. I'd like to hope I have some degree of thought process and integrity. I'll sell out stuff on the wall, but that opinion I don't think will change.
That's what I was just going to say about Wild Ute.
I know what I was walking into.
He sold out his integrity on Friday. I sold out my integrity on Friday. I have no I can't stand in judgment of Wild Ute.
I have a wall of unintegrity behind me to make up for that world.
Tom Dubay says smartest dumb guy I ever met graduated from Yale. I knew a guy who graduated from Yale as well. I had to go over to his house. Very nice house. Could not figure out why the toilets kept putting cleaning pucks. And then he did that over and over and over. To the point they had to take the toilet out to get the
Moen, looks like we are losing you a little bit here again. Freezing.
Fucking pucks out.
Not sure if you just heard me, Moen. I think you're cutting out a little bit again.
Yep. I'm back. It's just
cool.
Funny. Guy from Yale kept flushing.
Sometimes the times of your freeze makes it even funnier. So we're stuck on the guy from Yale kept on flushing. Coy says, shooter Texas, for you to say Illinois is not a big brand, something is wrong there. I think this big state institution and one of the biggest states population-wise works.
If the pizza company across the street doubled my salary, I'm guessing I'll be crossing the street.
Well, most likely, unless you're living in a luxury pizza place that you don't have to do any work and get paid, and you don't want to do that much work.
Rob Ellen says, I'm in Oregon, and holy shit, it was Armageddon when the state finally allowed old folks to pump their own gas. Yeah, my aunt has no idea. Like, I've tried explaining it to her. I've showed it to her. She'll look for anybody, and, God bless her. She's, I don't know, she carries cash in her roll, and she'll just start going around to people. I'm like, you can't be doing that. You don't know where you're at. Someone come up and snatch that roll. Got another super chat here from our friend Greg Flugar. As much as it hurts to agree with a hurricane, I hold the same position as Rock and Rant on auto bids. Gophers don't need no four big auto. What? Wait, never mind. I plead. If you got here late, Greg, if you go back to the beginning, I sang on Wisconsin. So not so much sang, it was more of a spoken word, kind of melodramatic interpretation, but I did it.
Yeah, Moen was doing like the poetry thing.
Yes. It was like deaf poetry jam about Wisconsin. So thank you for the super chat, Greg. I got to give you some noises here. Let's see. Special Flugs. Where is my special Flugar? Oh. And since you agreed with the Hurricanes.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
And I don't have a cheeseburger. Oh, I do have a cheeseburger. And as soon as I can move this comment, there is Greg's sworn enemy, the cheeseburger, on the screen. Thank you for the super chat, Greg. It is appreciated, sir. I do appreciate it. Now I got to figure out how to get that in there. At some point, I'll get this. Tony Lawson says 20 schools is plenty for any conference. Well, one of them's going to be Miami. I've just got a feeling. But the big SEC will have the best brands at the end of the day from the remaining leagues. It's true. You're going to get stripped for value.
Stripped for parts.
Not fun, but it's the nature. It's the nature of the beast. I read the SEC is cool to the scheduling agreement with the big. Did you guys read that as well? I have not heard anything of the sort.
Yeah, I did not see it, but I'm not disputing that there's an article out there. Just hasn't come across my way.
Yeah, the only thing I've recently seen about the SEC is the 9 conference games. They're getting close to 9 conference games. But that being said, who knows? I've heard things got very quiet very quickly. That's all I can say. Jeff Fuller says, not so impossible hypothetical. P4 pool media rights in 2030. One new deals, and via collective bargaining, get all teams an extra 25 to 30 million above what they currently get. Do the SEC big go for it? If you're talking about doing it where it's one gigantic Power One conference, yeah, I think they would disagree with that. I think that the SEC and the Big Ten would rather remain autonomous and have their autonomy.
Well, I mean, it could be with Jeff's, it could be something that Jeff is saying, and maybe I'm just riffing off what he's saying, is what if everybody stays as a conference, but they collectively negotiate their media rights, and instead of it saying, hey, we're going to get this deal for $2 gazillion from these networks, and everybody's going to be dividing it into equal shares, we divide it into that everybody's floor goes up 25 to 30 million, preserving the Big Ten's hard-earned media disparity, but everybody gets $25 million more that helps fund other programs in the school for the entire athletic department while preserving conference autonomy. It could also be done that way, where they just do a collective deal. If they got antitrust exemption, the collective deal rises everything. I don't know if that kind of deal would require the forego your rights, turn into regional conferences thing. Maybe that's the only way that would happen, but maybe there's a different way of cutting that.
Here's the problem. Even with that method, you are sacrificing your autonomy. You are. You can say, oh, you guys can say as a conference, you can play each other all you want, et cetera, et cetera. You're still sacrificing your autonomy.
Well, but the flip side of that is you're sacrificing your autonomy by doing a playoff. You can just go play with yourself.
Well, there's laws against that. Just make sure you're doing it at home. Markets fail when outcomes are rigged. Real capitalism is self-correcting, not rooted in brand privilege. I agree with you. Real capitalism is self-correcting. I think that's why you saw the Pac-12 disappear and the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the ACC expand.
I really wish Devil Frog would have a very strong opinion on this topic.
I'm not sure where he sits yet. He might be undecided. Where's that Utah pig truck guy? I don't know. Don't know. It was a story about the SEC schools agreeing to 9 conference games, but a scheduling agreement was too much for some schools. I believe I read it in the New York Times or USA Today online. Again, I heard about the 9 conference games. I did not hear about the scheduling agreement not having enough votes. Movie Time Blue says Georgia's Institute of Technology. That's technically not Georgia Tech, but I'll drink for you anyway.
Is there a different institute called the Georgia Institute of Technology that I just haven't heard of?
Yeah, but true to the game, you have to just say Georgia Tech. You can't use the full Georgia Institute of Technology. Toilets kept freezing. Yes, in a way, they kept freezing. I hope you're staying safe out there, Tempest. No storms here in sight in Ohio. It is nice and calm and clear and cool. It's dropped down to about 64 degrees, and it's clear skies.
That's an excellent pilot's voice right there, actually.
Clear skies. But Devil Frog, I'm telling you what, man, you might have set the record for most messages in the history of a single stream on our channel.
At least it's not like trying to sell Bitcoin offshoots. Like
your fingers must be flying, bro. You got words per minute for hours. Steel Austin says best thing for Big 12 ACC is to start creating the best Tier 2 league now. Don't wait to get kicked to the curb by the P2, which is inevitable. Here's the thing. An ACC or a Big 12 team can win a national championship. Colorado, great example. I mean, Colorado's had tons of resources poured into there. Deion Sanders recruiting high-class kids, 4 and 5 stars. They're landing transfer portal kids. Texas Tech. Hey, that guy from Texas Tech probably spent more money than anybody this offseason. What's stopping Texas Tech? I mean, as long as they have access, which they would have at least 2 guaranteed playoff spots and possibility of at-larges as well.
Yeah, I think the concern you have, right, is in year 1 of this, getting an ACC team, a Big 12 team, even the G5s, right, who are getting in. If you put it into college basketball terms, like maybe they're before you factor into everything, the whole issues with different revenue, they're like a 3 seed or a 4 seed in the college basketball tournament, right? Like a reasonable shot of winning a title. As the money gap keeps going, even though you have access, then you start becoming like a 9 seed, a 10 seed. I think that's the fear if you're a P2 conference or the G5, G4, G6, whatever it is that whatever your relative seed would have been in the hoops world, the disparity on the revenue side, the access almost doesn't matter because it's just like you're getting like a prize at the end of the year. But, it's unlikely that a 14 or 15 or 16 seed is going to win the NCAA tournament when it's all said and done because the resources and the ability to attract talent just isn't the same.
Just saying, a number 8 seed won the first 12-team playoff this year.
Yeah, but, I mean, that wasn't a true 8 seed, and that won't exist anymore after a year.
Yeah. Who's to say that after the ACC gets rated that they'll change their 4-4-2-2-1-1 model to a 6-6-2-2? Again, it's not going to be a 4-4-2-2-1-1. It's going to be a 16-team model. The other thing is, Chris, it will be contractually obligated. So it's going to be guaranteed for the length of that contract. Does it? I'm not watching anymore and I'm not alone. Okay. Jackson Johnson, 104 days until week 0 and 109 days until week 1. Thank you for the super chat, Jackson. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I don't think I have any Alabama sound effects on here. Oh, you know what? Maybe I do. I tell you what, maybe I have something good for you here, buddy. Got something good for you here.
That's all right, man. Guess what? I was a little bit wasted my own self. You know? Okay?
Man, you two are regular old Three Musketeers.
Yeah, we are. Touche.
Thank you for the super chat, Jackson. It is appreciated, sir. Let's talk about this. The scheduling with the college football has kind of got really week 0 and all this with all these games coming on. We're going to have a 16-team playoff. Now they're talking about play-in games, championship weekends, full seasons, scheduling agreements. Doesn't it make sense to you that we pull college football? Or it makes sense to me, but I'll get your opinion, Rock, and everybody's opinion in the chat. Pull college football to like the second or third week of August, and that's just, we don't have a week 0, we just have a week 1.
Yeah, if I mean, sometimes you don't have to reinvent wheels. Just follow the wheel that works, right? So to me, what I would do if I was college football collectively, and there's a lot of things I would do if I was college football and running it. I'm totally fine to be nominated for the commission or the chairman. I don't think I'm probably in the running, but hey, I didn't think we'd have an American Pope, so you never know. But just pull everybody up to whether it's second week or third week of August, have the marquee game of that weekend on Thursday night, like the NFL does, right? The marquee, whether you want to have like whoever it is that was the highest ranked teams that have a game scheduled that weekend, and just like have that kickoff event that everybody comes into, do that, and then the next day, the day after, we're in the season, right? And some people will be playing marquee games, like we have several of those on week 1 versus 0. I think there's like one really decent game on week 0, a couple of okay games. Then there's a ton of excellent ones. That's what I would do. Give yourself some more room to move around the NFL later on in the year, the playoff wise. Stop playing this game. You know, I still don't really get why we do the college football final on a Monday night. I know it's because Monday Night Football's over, but like you'll get bigger ratings if everybody can have a party and drink and turn into a holiday on a Saturday night or a Sunday. I don't really care. I don't get, there's some really stupid things, and I don't care if there's network people involved. They're not infallible in making mistakes. But I agree, it's a little bit weird. It was one thing when there was the kickoff classic and then everything that followed. Now, like, I mean, I guess it's work because we all know what week 0 is. It's about it makes it about as much sense as the Big Ten having 18 teams. But, you know, I would do what you're suggesting personally. One big marquee game and the season blows up the next day.
Or just do it first week of August. Make the first week of August week 0, and week 2 can be, second week of August can be week 1. There's nothing going on in August, guys. It's preseason NFL football. It's garbage football. Nobody wants to watch it. You watch the first 15 minutes, and then you get drunk on the couch listening to the announcers while you fall asleep.
I'm a huge fan of that, especially if it's written into the laws that 3 of the 4 games the Miami plays has to be down in Florida in August against whatever the most important games we have that season are.
Well, that's true. You got that nice humidity there.
I'm sure it won't hurt at all.
Shonsky says every state has seats at the Senate level. I guarantee if there's a solution to saving these teams and everyone can operate without losing sports, they will step in. Shonsky, God bless you, brother. I salute you. I'm glad you believe in this democracy. This Congress can't decide which way to lean when they fart without having a 14-hour debate on the subject. And then it's still a stalemate.
I agree with a lot of takes you have, Shonsky. This would be one of the ones I least agree with, because it's not even that you have to get to a majority. You have to get to 60 in the Senate to do this, right, with the current rules the way they are. And then you have senators who have mixed allegiances within their own state, right, because they have schools on either side of the conversation and how things go. And to me, the biggest thing, without getting into politics on other than discussing how politics, the political world, is impacting college football, the fact that a college football presidential or college sports presidential commission was announced after meeting with Nick Saban is the biggest version ever of tell me you can't get anywhere in Congress without telling me you can't get anywhere in Congress. Now, maybe the pressure that comes from it will do something, and great, because I'm not against the solution. I'm just extremely skeptical that any of the things that are going on right now are going to give us to the solution, because at its core, the fact that the conferences and schools and teams do not want to do collective bargaining makes every version of a solution painful in some way or another. And until there's enough pain for everybody, which apparently we haven't hit yet, or else the schools wouldn't have come up with a half-ass answer back to the judge in the NIL settlement, I remain skeptical. I'm done.
All right. We got about 10 more minutes left here on the show, guys. Anything you want to have read will have to be a super chat. Otherwise, I've got enough comments here starred. And but you can keep leaving comments, and if we have time, we will get to them as well.
We get enough to last till next show.
Geez, just with Devil Frog. Illini's best odds to win the Heisman is Luke Altmaier at 40,000 to 1. So you're saying there's a chance. Hey, man.
That's just ignorance.
Hey, put $5 on it. Illini Ted, do it. If it happens, it happens. You never know. Never ever know. Unless I bet it. If I bet it, you know it's going to lose.
Yeah, that's just ignorance. Like Luke Altmaier's a very likely top 10 quarterback heading into the season. At worst, a top 15 quarterback in most preseason predictions of who are the best returning quarterbacks for this year. So I would definitely take a $5 flyer as an Illini fan on that.
I'm going to be a little biased here. I think Jeremiah Smith should be the favorite.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is going to get Cam Ward's going to be the #1 overall pick odds, right? Like you'll have to pay Vegas to bet on Jeremiah Smith, though his fortune is up in somebody else's hands, right? Like it depends upon whether your guy's belief there in Ohio State and your new quarterback is going to be what he needs to get the yards he needs. But one way or another, that offense at Ohio State will figure out a way if they have to literally hand off to him or start running some weird wing tee that gets to Jeremiah Smith every time to make sure the ball's in his hands. So he's got to be the odds-on favorite.
Moen, you're right. An ACC team could win now. This will change. Look, it's just a matter of if you've got the NIL backing you, if you can afford to put the money towards football, maximize your spending on football, you could potentially win. Look, people say no Power 4 team can. Notre Dame went to the championship game last year, guys. They weren't a Power 2 team.
Yeah, they're a Power 1A team.
They're a Power 0 team.
Yeah, they are the Power 0 team. That's a good way of putting it.
Conundrum says, blame the SEC. I always do.
It's a solid strategy, Conundrum.
Chris G. Rock and rant right on. Access will not guarantee eyeballs.
People like Cinderella stories, though, I will say that, right? So that does help with ratings.
You would think, but I don't think Indiana Notre Dame did very good last year.
Well, apparently, according to Heather Dinich, that was also because that game started off as, that was a very regional game, but we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe if Indiana had won, is probably a better example, right? If they had won that game and went into the next round, I bet you that game would have had a ton of ratings behind it.
Well, I think, let's look at it this way. Arizona State, again, calls, non-calls, we're going to argue that till the end of time. Mm-hmm. There's another non-P2 team that made a run at it. Probably should have knocked off Texas. Tony Lawson says, Monavision are both of the Ohio NFL teams demanding new stadiums? Of course they are. Of course they are. At least Cincinnati's been to a Super Bowl in the last 5 years. Do they need a new NFL stadium? No, they don't. There's nothing wrong with Paul Brown Stadium, or I know they want to call it Paycor Stadium now. That's Paul Brown Stadium. There's nothing wrong with that damn stadium. I've been there a lot of times.
The Browns should have enough money now because they're the #1 selling jersey in pro football.
Yeah. Knock Knock yourself out. Cleveland taxpayers, if you want to pay for that, knock yourself out. There's nothing wrong with that stadium either. I don't understand why those stadiums are like 25 years old. How can a stadium break down in 25 years? Ohio Stadium is over 100 years old. Somehow these college stadiums that they've engineered have lasted century. These NFL stadiums with all their high new technology can't make it 25 years.
Well, I will say there are some stadiums like the one in New Jersey for the Jets and Giants, which is probably lasting fine but it was built like it looked like an outdoor air conditioner and is a terrible stadium from day one. Like I've never seen anybody, piss away $1 billion so easily on one of the ugliest monstrosities out there. But functionally, it's still good.
Mr. Monkey says you can't choose Arizona State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, BYU. Excluding those schools, who is winning the Big 12?
Well, since I already picked Texas Tech to win, no, Kansas State. I picked Kansas State in my way too early zone against either Texas Tech or ASU. And I can't pick BYU. I would probably say Iowa State.
Solid choice. Solid choice.
How about you?
I like that pick. I would take Iowa State also. But I would also put up Oklahoma State as a potential because, again, I like consistency.
Yeah, I picked out Oklahoma State to be 11th on my rankings because I just don't believe in Gundy at this point, and I think that last year was a pivot downside, and but Flo picked him like 4th, so one of us is massively wrong.
Who 30 years ago was saying UConn would win 6 natties, double more than anyone else? Programs can rise and even faster now given portal and NIL revenue share.
I think there's a big difference in when you're trying to acquire 5 or 6 key players in an NIL era than trying to convince like 75 to or at least 50 really good players to go to UConn to play football.
No way, Moen. No way a non-P2 team can win a natty. Best case scenario for a non-P2 team is to win a game, maybe 2 in the CFP, but there's no way a non-P2 is winning 4 playoff games. Not a chance.
Except for Clemson's going to do that this year, probably.
I respectfully disagree, Steel Austin, and if I'm wrong, I owe you a Coke, and if I'm right, you owe me $100.
I mean, Clemson is right now, just to dispute that, like on most people's boards and Vegas odds, is at worst top 5. A lot of people have them picked as number 1, top 2, top 3. So at least for this year, the people who get paid a lot of money to make sure they're sort of right have a P2 school at least in serious consideration.
Clint Moses came in here. He says Notre Dame should be forced to pay everyone. They'd just be paying the ACC their money back.
ACC, Notre Dame, and I know this isn't right because it's, a religious-based institution. They definitely have pictures on somebody in the ACC office, and it may not just be Jim Phillips because I can't understand anything else that's being done or accommodating them. But they do have willful, complicit people alongside them, including Clemson, but not only. Florida State and Miami probably are right alongside there trying to make sure they're getting the best out of the TV rankings. Even enemies of thy enemy may be your friend at time.
Steel Austin says the talent gap between the Power 2 schools and the non-Power 2 schools is massive. Same way Warren Buffett offers $1 billion to anyone who can pick a perfect March Madness bracket because it's mathematically impossible. It is not mathematically impossible, Steel Austin, I assure you. It is mathematically possible. Improbable, maybe, but not impossible.
I'm going to look up the blue chip ratio right now. I think that the preponderance of the schools that have the highest ones are in those 2 conferences, but I don't believe that's 100% reflective of what's going on right now. Let me see if I can find it, and then we can pull it up as we're
MBM says Saturday Night Natty would be the choice, Rock. I agree with you guys both. Saturday nights, all right for a natty. Illini Ted says we can do the opposite of bowl season and have the northern states host games in early August. Yeah, it's I don't know how bad it is in Florida, but it's not very comfortable in Ohio in August either with the humidity. I have to go to a different state or use a VPN to bet on Illinois here. Illinois. Yeah, Illinois legalized weed, and you can't bet on stuff. And he made sure to clarify that's allegedly for the internet police. Allegedly. Rob Ellen says the Georgia Dome. Shonsky says, watch out for Utah. They are not going to be the same team as last year. Tempest is saying UCF will be a Big 12 contender for what they're paying Scott Frost. By God, they better. I could not believe the contract that man got. Boy, howdy, just talking about falling into it. I have Clemson and Notre Dame in my early national championship game. Not a bad idea. Not a bad pick.
In the current blue chip ratio in the top 20 heading into the season, I could be off on like the filter, so someone can correct me if you want. But you have, it's way leaning towards the P2 without any question. But you have Notre Dame at 12 with 56% as 4 and 5 stars. Miami's at 13 with 57% actually. Over there you have Florida State at 20th overall with 39% above there. That's like the team rankings in terms of their roster. And then let me just double check on the actual completely filtering it by the 4-star and 5-star ratio, which is often correlates to who has the best shot. And it's pretty, it changes a little bit. Miami jumps ahead of Notre Dame in that regard. Clemson moves up a few spots. So technically I think it's over 50% is when they start giving you a reasonable shot of doing that. Then you have, Miami and Notre Dame in there as well as Clemson as potential heading into the new season. I don't know if it's been adjusted completely yet for the spring transfer portal window. There weren't a ton of 5 stars that were transferring, but there were some 4 stars.
Illini Ted says we can bet, just not on Illinois colleges. Looks like you would have missed out on that Northern Illinois upset of Notre Dame last season. That's unfortunate. Tempest says Notre Dame is the reason that Clemson and Florida State are leaving the ACC, Rob Allen.
After blaming everything on the SEC, your next best bet is just to blame Notre Dame because you actually get everybody who's not Notre Dame to agree with you.
I'm just to the point in my life, I'm blaming everything on them. I stubbed my toe. I'm screaming about Notre Dame.
Pizza got there cold.
Notre Dame pizza cold, Notre Dame. Hit a deer, Notre Dame. Neighbor adds another room on his house while I can't. Notre Dame. Mullen, Florida, 100% humidity. And when it's 95, it feels like it's 115. That's all right. In Ohio Stadium, 95 with 80% humidity and 2 300-pound dudes on either side of you. It's not fun.
World's first outdoor sauna.
Baylor spanked Kansas last year when Kansas was hot. TCU is the only team that beat Kansas at Arrowhead. These showings may have biased me, but why? They should be good. So he likes
Baylor's got a really good quarterback, too.
Yeah, he likes Baylor. He likes TCU. And Baylor did hang on to their coach. A lot of people thought he was gone. Notre Dame brought in Cal and Stanford. They absolutely did. And SMU.
Yeah, they brought 3. Hey, dude, you can't come to the party unless you bring a few girls, and they bring people with braces.
And the last one, Matthew J. Kipp says, I bleed red. I think pretty much all humans do. So you are you're definitely mammalian. So you've got hemoglobin. Congratulations. All right, let me get the last call sticker up here. Last call, Rock. What's your last call for tonight?
just I guess I don't think we're going to get a full result on what the judge says to the House NIL settlement. I know that the plaintiffs, the people who are the objectors had some time to get their stuff in. I think it comes in this week, and then the NCAA I think has to respond by the settlement guys have to respond by the end of the week. So I guess we'll see if anything interesting comes out of that. But I think we probably still have another week. I personally am just kind of paying attention just because there's nothing else really to training camps, mini camps, OTAs opening, seeing with some of our favorite college players how they're doing, and not just what's going on in Cleveland. How about yourself, man?
Let me see. Pacers 80, Cavs 39. Holy shit, says Greg Flugar.
Wow.
Fucking Notre Dame again. Can you believe this? Notre Dame has sabotaged the Cavaliers yet again. This is all Notre Dame's fault, and that's all I'm going to hear about it. Yeah, Notre Dame. But I see Clint Moses. He hit us with a GT in the chat. We might as well. There's a Georgia Tech.
Yeah, apparently the Cleveland fans need to drink right now, so
yeah.
Might as well do it.
Hey, even if you're just a citizen in Cleveland, you need a drink.
Like all the Italian fellows, I drink my whiskey beer. I'm a random wreck from Georgia, taking a hell of an engineer.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.